Howdy, this is MacFeely, Fleet Admiral MacFeely tonight, playing a little Star Trek Online. And I am in the Ker'Rat Space War Zone, where it's essentially an open PvP battleground between the Federation and the Klingons. And typically, people hang out up here above the map, essentially. It's a pretty big open space. I'm currently at full impulse and flying the Husnock warship tonight. I also thought I would explain my build a little bit more because I don't think I did it very well in the last video, and some people might have had some questions. So I'm just going to come up here a little bit. And we'll just drop down. Right there. Okay. So first of all, I am a tactical officer. So if I come here to skills and I go to captain skills, you can see space skills. I have everything in the tactical tree filled, and everything here gives you bonuses to various things like here uh, plus 15 weapon amplification, total weapon crit severity bonus of plus 40%, and then this gives me another 4% crit chance. Shield penetration, and you get tactical readiness where your abilities recharge faster. And I do have the hangar pet improvements because I have a couple of carriers. And I like busting those out every once in a while. And then over here in science and the engineering, just a few things to help with like subsystem repairs, damage control, and then over here shield hardness and the long range targeting sensors. Love that because it decreases the penalty, the damage penalty. So it says by default, being far away from your foe can cause all energy weapons to lose up to half of their potential base damage. This penalty starts at 0% while at 2 kilometers or closer, and scales up to 50% loss when at exactly 10 kilometers, which basically you can't fire on an opponent unless they're within 10 kilometers of you. So then each rank reduces the maximum penalty by 10%. So if I start firing on a enemy basically right at the 9.99 kilometer mark, boom, I'm essentially starting at 30% loss rather than 50%, 30% base damage. So I'm doing more damage further out, and then of course as I get closer, that penalty goes away once you get within 2 clicks. And I like to get close. So that's the tactical side of it, and then this here's hull capacity, which helps in a firefight. So there's the space skills. I really don't do ground, but there is a ground component to the game. You might see me go to space dock every once in a while, but otherwise, once I've leveled up and everything, I pretty much stay in my starship. The other important thing are your traits, and you'll see here personal space traits. You have your personal ground traits. So superior, accurate there. I run innocuous because usually in PvE type of environment, there's other players, and since I usually am in a small tactical escort, I don't necessarily want to have all the eyes on me. Then I have superior elusive, which helps my defense when they do eventually turn around and hit me. Inspirational Leader is a great one. Plus 10% chance. Activating any bridge officer ability grants plus 10 to most starship skills for 15 seconds, and it can stack up to 3 times. And so that can help just, just about any, like it says, most starship skills. So like hull regen, shield regen, stuff like that. It comes in handy dandy. Coalition Starship Tactics. Now, this is one as well for running PvE and stuff like that. You get a bonus depending on what your teammates are. So, like I'm a tactical officer, and so I get plus 3% flight speed and plus 3 defense rating. So if there was 2 others, then it would be plus 9% flight speed and plus 9 defense rating. And then if we get an NG and a science in there, obviously we get shield regen and hull regen. So that's pretty handy. Fleet coordinator, again, a group centric sort of ability space trait. Welcome, viewer. I was just kind of going through my build here. Fleet coordinator, like I said, it's a group centric thing, so plus 2% all damage per team member up to 10%. And so obviously it only works in a 5-man. Let's see, operative gives me a plus 1% crit chance and plus 2% crit severity. And then I've got beam training and cannon training because I primarily run beams and cannons. I do run torpedoes, but I like having a couple of these other traits. And then my starship traits. Those come in pretty important. Target-rich environment. Since I do run cannons, it all kind of ties together. So you got target-rich environment, which gives you plus 1% directed energy damage per target hit while cannon, scatter volley, or beam fire at will is active. It stacks up to 30 times and generates up to 4 stacks per second. So it can ramp up pretty quickly when you have a lot of enemies in front of you. So then that comes over here to my preferential targeting, which after using beam fire at will, cannon, scatter volley, plus 100% damage to beam overload and cannon rapid fire. So all that tied in. So basically what I have is I have scatter volley executes whenever possible, and then maybe I don't have it on this ship. Okay, well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave Ker'Rat right fast, and I'll switch over to the NX. Since that's my favorite pounder. So switch ship to Challenger. The USS Challenger. A little bit smaller ship. We'll go and load back into Ker'Rat. Okay, so here you can see I have Cannon Scatter Volley 2, executes whenever possible. So essentially, as soon as I pull the trigger, that ability is going to trip, and the ability is going to go. So then 20 seconds after that, because there's one other ability here that I didn't get to. So then I have Withering Barrage, which extends the duration of Cannon Scatter Volley by 4 seconds. Then we have the Emergency Weapon Cycle, and that comes up whenever I have emergency weapons, minus 50% weapon power cost and 20% fire cycling haste for 30 seconds. So, this goes off, which essentially it can fire up to 3 targets within a 45-degree arc, and it goes for 14 seconds. So that's essentially, say, start a combat, 14 seconds is over, 6 seconds goes by, and then boom, rapid fire 3 goes off. Upgrade your cannon weapons to fire 50% more shots per second. Additionally, for this duration, your cannon weapons deal 120% of their normal damage. And then you have on top of that Starship trait, which it essentially doubles that damage, the base damage. And then I have this one here, Highly Specialized, which reduces the recharge time on all my bridge officers, increases Starship hull resto, Starship weapon specialization, which improves crit hit chance, and then Starship exotic particle generator. So then that leads to some of the, the space reputation ones. Those are all pretty basic, but they provide all sorts of extra buffs and bonuses. The active reputation, now, I highly recommend doing all the reputations, because at the end of it you get these reputation buffs or traits. And so this one here, Fracting Tetryon Cascade, easy for me to say, does a lot of damage when you have a big group of enemies together, because it basically bounces off of one another and increases damages, or doesn't increase, but it does damage to all the targets in the chain, and it's one of those attention getters, that's for sure. Yeah, and it's funny too. It says it's only 6,300 to the first damage, or to nearby targets, and then it's talking about the second target and then the third target in the chain. Now, I've seen this thing chain like 8-9 times, so it'll do more than just 3. The biomolecular shield generator, that's from the Delta Alliance, and it's freaking awesome. Basically, it drops this orb that heals your shields, and it'll pretty much take you from 0 to 100% before it'll run out. Quantum singularity manipulation, basically it increases your science stats, like it says, and then if you activate it, and then after 3 seconds you cloak your ship for up to 5 seconds, and then so basically you can scoot out of combat and say bye bye, don't shoot at me anymore. Anti-time entanglement singularity, it basically, I use this on like a large capital ship, or say I'm doing a counterpoint, use it on Terrock Moor, and does damage and all that good stuff. And then deploys sensor interference platform. That's always great, so you're getting pounded on. I've got it set to automatically deploy. And select camera distance. There we go. And this is annoying too. I hate that the simulated console automatically shows. Okay. So, and then you can see there's a Romulan who has allied with the Federation. Miles Hush. So that's that, there's the Enterprise J, and then they had a Klingon version and a Romulan version. And that's the Romulan version. Miles Hush. No bark. It's a pretty big ship. Albeit I'm in a pretty small ship. I could dock on you. Okay, so back to my build. So All that, of course, helps whatever you have on your ship. And what I run is a disruptor build. And we'll start over here with the tactical consoles. I have 5 of the same consoles. So vulnerability locators. They increase my disruptor damage by 37.5%. And then I also get a plus 1.9% crit chance with each one of them. Now, I could have gone with, like, say, energy damage or torpedo damage, and then you can get it with different types of damage, like the disruptor or phaser or tetrion, so on and so forth. I chose disruptor mainly because of the weapons that I run. So now let me come over here to my weapons. Basically, I run the Terran Task Force set with both the dual heavy cannons and the beam in the front on this ship specifically. And the nice thing about these, or the thing that attracted me to these the most, is that they do scaling damage. So if we come down here, we look at it, like here's the dual heavy cannons, and they're upgraded to epic. But if we look at the notes in here, we got plus 10% crit severity, 2 target, 2231 disruptor damage. Damage dealt increases as target's hull decreases, up to 200% damage at 25% hull. So once I get that puppy down to 25%, this weapon is doing 4400 damage, and the beam array is essentially the same thing. It does a little bit less damage, but it has a much larger targeting on it. I'm sorry, viewers, hang on one sec. What's that? Hello? Sorry. Sorry, so anyway, so then this weapon is doing double damage, so that's 3000, not bad. So those two are doing their thing there, and so when their hull gets down, I'm doing double damage. Now the other weapons I have, I've got another cannon, dual crescent cannons, Alachi. What I like about them is that every non-critical hit with a weapon, well, no, sorry, that's part of another ability. There it is. Oh, here it is. It's the armor penetration. Plus, while your target's health is less than 50%, plus 10 to plus 20 armor penetration, and it increases as target loses health. You have plus 20 crit severity, and you have a 2.5% chance at plus 50 armor pen and 100% shield penetration. And it doesn't sound like a lot, a 2.5% chance, but when you take into account those abilities that I have, which increase my fire weapon haste, as well as that one ability where it doubles the amount of shots that are going out, it's a low chance, but it's getting a lot of hits to do it. Over here, before I get to that other beam, over here I have Coalition Disruptor dual heavy cannons. And the thing about the Coalition is that 2 target, 2.5% chance, minus 20 disruptor resistance rating for 30 seconds, and then it stacks up to 5 times. So being a beam weapon, or a cannon weapon, you know, shooting out lots of shots. And so what that's doing, obviously, is reducing the target's resistance to my weapon type or my damage type, which is disruptor, and everything's disruptor based. So then we're going to come over here to this one, this beam, which isn't upgraded to epic yet, but it is pretty powerful. It's the Nausicaan disruptor beam array, and this is part of a 3-piece set, and so is the Terran Task Force. And I'll get to the 2 torpedoes here in a second. But here on these beam arrays, We've got so minus 10 weapon power, yada yada yada. Here it is. 2.5% chance hold for 5 seconds. On hold, 1,000 disruptor damage per second for 5 seconds with Nausicaan weaponry augmentation set bonus, which I have. So then if we come down here, the set bonus, we get the disruptor net gains 916 disruptor damage per second for 5 seconds in addition to its normal. And then because I have the 3-piece set, I get plus 26.6% disruptor damage and plus 50 starship hull penetration. I didn't come over here. The 3-piece set of the Terran Task Force gives you a plus 13.3% projectile weapon damage, and then you have the secondary torpedo launchers, which fires an additional torpedo. For 20 seconds, launching a torpedo launches an additional basic torpedo of a similar type on impact. So, you know, depending on how far away your target is, if they're pretty close, you launch a torpedo. That first one hits, you know, say it's a good hit, boom, you launch another one. So that's kind of nice. But it's got a 2-minute recharge, so I just had it set up to go off whenever it came. Now, I do have the torpedoes on the back. It's a nimble ship, so I can usually, if I make a pass coming in from the front, if you don't survive that initial pass, well, I've got a couple of friends to send out, you know, behind me. The torpedo for the Terran Task Force does 8,500 kinetic damage, and again, it does scaling damage. But you'll see it actually says in that blue, that light blue text where it says Terran Task Force Photon Torpedo. So if I had a console that boosted photon projectile damage, it would boost the damage for this. But this one, my Nausicaan Energy Torpedo, you'll see in there it says 11,328 disruptor damage. So that's getting boosted by those 5 tactical consoles that I got. And boy howdy, when I've got that, do I have, yeah, right there. High yield 1, next torpedo, within the 30 seconds will be a high yield torpedo. 10% chance, and basically the high yield for that is it sends out like 3 of them. So it's pretty dirty. So those are the torpedoes, and then part of the sets are the consoles. And so over here, the one for the Nausicaan set gives the Starship Drainage Expertise, the plus 33% power transfer rate, and then the plus 25% disruptor damage. So I'm getting even more damage. And then the one for the Terran Task Force, plus 11% hit points, but it's that minus half second shared torpedo recharge time, which there's the Omega torpedo used to have a 2-second recharge rate, and it used to be where you could just sit there and essentially every 1.5 seconds launch one of those little torpedoes. But then they changed the way the torpedo launcher works, where it's basically got 6 charges, and then you got to wait for it to recharge, or recharge one and then you can launch another one. So somebody must have been in the forums saying, "Oh, this guy was launching torpedo after torpedo after torpedo and blah 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 blah." And we for everybody. So then I got this in the engineering section. This has starship hull penetration and damage resistance, as well as another 5% reduction to specialist bridge officer abilities. And then this console and this console are part of a 4-piece set. I usually run 2 or 3 pieces of it. Basically, this console by itself gives plus 25% projectile damage and a plus 1 critical chance. And then this console by itself, the dynamic power redistributor, gives a plus 11.2 all damage and plus 17.8 directed energy damage. So, and then I also have this, it's got the dynamic power redistributor, which gives you hull regen, bonus damage, resistance rating, and plus damage when you're above 80% health. And then the set bonus, because I'm running just 2 pieces of it, I'm getting plus 33% phaser, disruptor, and plasma damage. So since I'm not running phasers or plasma, no big deal, but I am running disruptor. So that's another 33%. And then the engineering this one here, this is the assimilated module. I run this because this gives me another 1.1% crit chance, but another 10%, basically 11% crit severity. Then I get Starship Hull Regen and Starship Control Expertise. So since we're in a actual space battle kind of area, and there's going to be Borg down here that we can fight, I'm going to show you what all that culminates into. Just slow down here. Hi, Borg. I'm coming to get you. And you're not coming over. You see a lot of criticals. And then, oh yeah, I have that. So then there's the other abilities I could show, which I should. Let me take care of that guy. Uh-oh. 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 Mark? Mark. Why you gotta do that? See, and that's the problem is I'm in Ker'Rat. And that was a sneaky ass Klingon who just came in, obviously in a science vessel. Anyway, I was going to show you the specializations. So, I run a pilot and temporal operative build. When you saw I got down to 0% and then I blinked and had some health and shields back, that's part of the temporal operative. And if you come down here, or actually, where is it? Temporal adaptation. There it is, continuity. So it's the first one in Tier 4. When reduced to less than 10% of your hull, you will immediately be removed from danger. Your ship will teleport approximately 8 kilometers from its current location, become briefly untargetable, and have its hull and shields restored by a large amount. This action will also wipe all accumulated threat versus NPCs. So, like when I'm running Hive Onslaught, that always gets triggered. And it never resets before we get to the Queen, so I always get killed by the Queen. And I don't run threatening stance. But basically, that's all the nitty-gritty there, plus 28,000 hit points, plus 12,000 shield regen, also causes adjustment period debuff. But then if you put points into these, the adjustment period debuff no longer applies when continuity gets triggered. So basically that debuff is that minus 80% all damage and minus 66% flight speed. So you definitely want to put those 2 points in there. Get rid of that. And then the pilot, I run pilot because the NX, if we come here to the crew stations, the NX has a tactical pilot station. And so you're able to use bridge officer pilot abilities, and then comes in handy. It's a small, nimble ship, like I said. And then it also has a temporal op station. And so that's why I kind of have a couple of those abilities earlier that have the exotic particle generator buff helps with your temporal abilities. So, that was a lovely climb. Let's queue up for something here. I'm definitely going to go advanced. So, 3 for counterpoint, 1 for 4. Yeah, we already got 6 for the breach. Go for it. Ooh, that one slot. Love it. Alright. Let's see. Something should be popping soon. But yeah, the reinforcement spider, that is... Where's that at? There it is. That's one of the pilot bridge officer abilities there. Calling a squadron of 4 level 61 reinforcement fighters. And basically they just come in and help destroy. And those spheres will take your shields down pretty quick. And then they do a starburst before they disappear. That's fucking tight. I never noticed that before, really. There we go. Counterpoint. Alright. So I'm pretty sure... Yep. Alright, so when we load in, I'll have to switch out my armor and my shields and my warp because that whole set. I already said yeah. Let's go. Well, I guess while we wait to see if that loads, I'll show you what I'm running right now. It's the Delta set, and the shields there, they reduce all energy damage by 10%. They have a 50% shield drain resistance and reduces pull-around damage by 10%. So, okay, well, we'll go ahead and just switch over to the Terran set. The Terran set reduces phaser damage to shields by 20%, and then it has a 2.5% chance to reflect pulse of disruptor damage back to attackers, dealing 150% of incoming energy damage. Yeah. Not enough people accepted their offers, huh? He's sneaking on me just like you did on me.